Jimmy Johnson, nonetheless, is joining us live. Coach, you're a good guy for doing this because I know you've had better days in your life. So I want to.
There's a lot of people out there got it worse than me. But I'll be at the dentist here in about an hour.
So I want the analytic thing. I always say it's. I call it manalytics. I like some of it, but right. I don't want to reduce my players to code or numbers. And so this go for it on 4th and 2 at your own 18, my takeaway is, so if I don't get it, I give it to Derek Carr at home with a running game and Darren Waller. I'm just giving points up. How do you view it?
Hey, Bill Belichick and I have talked about this at length. And you know, you've got to take into consideration how good your team is, how good they are at stopping the run, how good they are on short yardage, the weather, on. And you got to look at risk and reward. On your own 18, the reward might be, hey, you might make another first down, you might get a little bit better field position, but you're probably not going to score.
That's right.
The risk, if you don't make it, they're going to score. You know, and so you got to look at risk and reward on any decision like this.
Yeah, I think that's really smart. Jimmy, that's the smartest way I've ever heard it put. The truth is, even with Justin Herbert and those weapons, if you get the first down, you score on about a third, especially on the road when you can't hear. So the upside is at best, statistically, maybe a field goal.
Right.
They're lucky they got out.
So you got to take.
Yeah,
you got to take that into consideration on your decision. You can't just look at a number or a computer and say, hey, go for it. It's 4th down. It doesn't work that way. It's a crutch for some coaches.
Yeah. So I like Brian Flores. The Dolphins drive me nuts. Dave Wannstedt's a buddy of ours. And Wannstedt, he always laughed. He said, my first 4 years at Miami, I had as good a record as Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh. They don't fire coaches. Right. Miami does. What do you make of the firing?
I like Brian Flores. I like him as a person. I think he's a good football coach. They've had their struggles with the Dolphins, but I don't know that this is the answer to bring in somebody different. They have struggled at the quarterback position with Tua. I think you can probably win with Tua, but you got to be really great around him.
Yeah. So you left Miami for the Dallas Cowboys, and at the time they were a mess. So Jim Harbaugh, like you, he's got Michigan going. The recruiting's going real well. He just won the Big Ten, Jimmy, and he's looking at the NFL. What would be the advice you would give him? Because he's doing well. He's probably never had a better Michigan team. And a lot of these openings in the NFL, Jimmy, they don't have very good quarterbacks. What would be the advice?
I would give him the same advice, but he knows. He's been in the league before, so he knows. But I told Butch Davis when Butch was trying to decide whether or not to leave, University of Miami and go to Cleveland or not. I said, Butch, don't think that you're going to go to Cleveland and everything's going to fall into place like it happened with us with the Cowboys. I said, you can go up to Cleveland and coach 2 or 3 years and get fired, get a big paycheck, and go back to college. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
I mean, really, coaching in professional football, it's a tough business. And if you don't have the right personnel, if you don't have the right front office, I'm not too sure your talent evaluator isn't better and more important than your coach. Your talent evaluator and a guy that can acquire talent, that's what makes good coaches. Now, there's a lot of coaches out there, they're their own talent evaluator.
Right.
But that's not the situation in every franchise.
So here's what worries me. The Cowboys look great against the NFC East. They're 6-0. And they bulldoze these teams. But they're 6-5 against everybody else. And I got to tell you, this morning when I watched the Niners, I like the Niners. I like the way they match up. I like the way they're playing, Jimmy. I think it's a tough matchup for Dallas.
I think it's a tough matchup, too. I know the Cowboys are favored, they're at home. But San Francisco looked really, really good, and they're a physical football team. They can run the football. They play outstanding defense. Their defensive line, can overpower you. They're an impressive football team. It'll be a great one to watch, because the Cowboys have got the talent to do it. If the Cowboys play as well as they're capable of playing, they can win the game. They're at home, but they haven't. I don't know how many teams in this league have been consistent throughout the year. And we talk about it on Fox NFL Sunday. I said, who do you trust? As soon as you start trusting the team, they lay an egg. It's really been a tough year. It's been a crazy year. There hasn't been 2 or 3 dominant teams that have just gone through the schedule. You look at the number 1 seeds right now with Tennessee. Here they lose Derrick Henry, and yet they're going to have a bye the first week. Green Bay, they laid a couple of eggs. So it's going to be a fun playoff time to watch all these teams play.
Jimmy, years ago, I remember reading something about college basketball and March Madness, that there was no correlation by how well you were playing in the last 2 weeks in the tournament. It didn't matter. It was like some teams were cold and got hot. In the NFL, Arizona, I like them. They're struggling. And yet 49ers, I don't want any part of them. Did you find in your career that you could take anything from your last couple regular season games and that it equated to any momentum at all in the playoffs?
Yeah, I think momentum is important. And it's important as far as the confidence of your team. Obviously, the 49ers coming off that win after being down 17-0, they're going to go into this first round of the wild card as a confident football team. So I think it helped on your confidence. The only thing that the variable there is if you're resting players and to protect them, and you don't play quite as well. So you got to take that into account if you're not playing your best players. But if you're playing your best players and you have a game like you had, with the 49ers against the Rams, you go into the playoffs confident.
Jimmy Johnson, the Hall of Famer, joining us. Jimmy, the Raiders' job is interesting because they don't have one of the more affluent owners. They have Derek Carr, and they have some nice offensive pieces. But there's always been this sense it's a little bit chaos. And but I think in the NFL, the Derek Carr component makes it a good job. I can win with Darren Waller, Derek Carr, right. Hunter Renfrow, Jacobs. I would take that job over all of them because of Derek. Here's my question. They played really darn well the last month with an interim coach, a special teams guy, and whatever he did, it worked. And I don't know what it is, Jimmy. If you ran the Raiders, would you give it to this guy or would you go big name and former coach? What would you do if you were the Raiders this morning?
I would think long and hard about keeping Rich as your head coach. He actually called me a couple of weeks ago. We talked. I was actually on the boat fishing, so I put it back in idle and nearly ran out of fuel because I talked for about an hour and a half. But we talked at length and about he just wanted to get some ideas on his first opportunity to be the head coach, et cetera, et cetera. I was extremely impressed, and the job that he has done with all the adversity that they've got there, I think he's done a heck of a job, and without question, I would give him first look. But some of these owners, they want to go for the sexy name.
Yeah.
Some of those sexy names have fallen by the wayside. Rich has proven that he can do the job.
Yeah.
So without question, I would give him a long look.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. All right, Jimmy, now I know you got a toothache and you bared through this thing. You're a tough guy.
I just wanted to say one thing because, somebody had mentioned you wanted to talk to me about records. And that's a pet peeve of mine.
What's that?
Is records. These players having records. They set a record for this, or they set a record for that. Yeah, hey, the only record that means anything, Colin, is how many Super Bowls did you win? How many playoffs did you win? How many games did you win? Sometimes these records, just like, T.J. Watt, he tied Michael Strahan's record for sacks.
Yeah.
Well, both of them, they play the run as well as play the pass, rushing the passer. I remember there was a defensive end, for Tampa back years ago. All he did is run up the field. He couldn't play the run in a heartbeat, but he had a bunch of sacks. Well, so some of the records, some of these guys, they throw for a lot of touchdowns, But as soon as they get in the playoffs against a good football team, they throw a lot of interceptions, which we saw yesterday.
Yeah.
So some of these records, really don't go with me at all. The only record that means anything, it's a team game. How many Super Bowls did you win? How many playoffs did you win? How many games did you win? It's a team game.
No, totally agree on that. There are sports like baseball, historically, records mean more. There's a lot of individual home run records and stolen base records. Baseball tends to be a record sport. To me, as a fan, football's wins and losses. That's all I care about.
That's it. That's it. That's the only record you ought to pay attention to.
I couldn't tell you today, if you gave me 8 options for how many touchdown passes Tom Brady has, I wouldn't be within 150. I can tell you how many home runs Babe Ruth hit. So that's the reality.
Right.
Baseball records matter.
I'll give you two examples. 2 of my best buddies, Terry Bradshaw and Troy Aikman. Terry would have games he'd only throw the ball about 15 times, but his team won 4 Super Bowls, and he was MVP on 2 or 3 of them. And Troy Aikman, if I'd have thrown the ball every down with Troy Aikman, hey, he would have had huge numbers. But because of the style of play of what we did to try to win the game, he was able to win 3 Super Bowls.
Yeah, totally agree. Jimmy, great seeing you. Get those teeth fixed. I want you to go get your teeth fixed.
Get the 2.
And get your dogs right.
Get my dogs well. That's what's important.
Sounds like a country song. Fix your cavities and dogs. All right, Jimmy, take care.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.